Joining me now from Washington, D.C. is William Roebuck, former U.S. Ambassador and Executive Vice President of the Arab Gulf States Initiative. William, thank you very much for your time. Limited information has come out of these talks, so we're not in the picture as to how much progress has been made. But what exactly does President Trump want Iran to agree to? Because his messages have been mixed in the lead up to this.
That's a good question. In fact, that is the big question. I'm not absolutely certain that the U.S. strategy going into these talks is absolutely clear. I think the U.S. wants to ensure that that obviously Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. President Trump made some quite aggressive threats about use of force when the domestic unrest occurred in Iran, and that built up an atmosphere in the region of a crisis with Iran. So it's unclear whether the U.S. is looking for some sort of off-ramp through negotiations, or if it's looking to push further and try to force a deal on a regime in Iran that it views as weak, severely weakened since last summer.
And in terms of regime change, I mean, does Iran hold any cards when it comes to these discussions? Because clearly military build-up by the US in the region has taken place over the past week or two. And it's clear that Iran is no Venezuela. It has multiple tentacles in different areas of the region. So it wouldn't simply be a matter of several military strikes and then replacing the regime with something else.
That's correct. The situation in Iran is quite different from Venezuela. It is a weakened regime, but it does have cards to play. It is able to, and has already implicitly threatened other countries in the region, in the direct region, with attacks if it is attacked in ways that threaten its stability. It has the ability to disrupt oil. If it's able to block the Strait of Hormuz, and that could rattle oil markets. That's something that I think the Trump administration has its eye on because of concerns about the U.S. economy. So Iran does have cards to play. It just is going to depend on, I think, the Trump administration's strategy with these negotiations. What is it that they're trying to achieve? I think they're going to see how the negotiations unfold, and if they can get a reasonable off-ramp through a negotiated process, perhaps they'll take it. We're going to have to see how these negotiations unfold.
But it appears that both sides are in some ways trying to buy time and push this situation a little further down the road to see how it develops. When it comes to Iran specifically, is this as much about diplomacy as it is about survival?
I think it's both. I mean, I think the Iranians are going to lean heavily on diplomacy, negotiations, to try to ensure that this regime does survive. As we said, they have cards to play. If the diplomatic negotiation fails, that doesn't mean this regime is going to fall by any means. And even if it's attacked militarily, it's shown in the past, it's quite resilient. And even though weakened now, it's not necessarily a weak regime overall. And I think we'll see if the negotiations work out in a way that leads to an off-ramp, or it leads to something more kinetic between the two countries.
Yeah, and of course they have proved that they do have still the ability to strike back hard, as was proved last year when it hit Israel a number of times. William, we do have to leave it there, but we thank you very much for joining us. William Roebuck there, former US Ambassador, joining us from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.